Hello, Kimberly here. Today we're going to walk through step by step how to put together this large book folio that starts with a main structure of 3 sheets of cardstock. And then we use some decorative papers, which can be your scrapbook paper, it can be origami if it's large enough. I have some thinner scrapbook papers that are going to work beautifully for this. I just love the colors. And cut to these dimensions, which are all listed on here. And then this dotted line here is are the scoring lines. And they're fairly well marked. And if you're having a hard time seeing them on these little drawings, they're also written out for you here. Here are the directions for cutting and scoring the cardstock substrate of the book, and here are the dimensions for cutting the decorative papers. So obviously we're going to make the structure of the book first, and then we're going to affix and glue the decorative papers after we have put together the book. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this or a photo with your camera just to have this at the side when you're cutting and selecting papers. And sorry, have a frog in my throat. Then you have it close at hand. I hope to also just copy and paste these particulars, and I'll have it in the directions or the instructions below this video that you should be able to click and see that there if you need a reminder. Okay. So I'm using some papers that are very similar to the mini book folio that I just put together and made a video of. This is actually coordinating here. And that video is already up and available. But this will be the companion piece for the larger book folio. The larger book folio size, I have is right here. So this is the size of the book we are going to be making. And the outside is constructed of this. Its base is made on this cardstock, 8.5 by 11. And then there's 2 pieces that fit together to make the outside of this cover. And then here's the little companion mini right here. And then here is another one that I made for my holiday lists, and it's worked really, really well for that. And the little companion booklet that I can tuck in my purse. This actually fits my bag because I have a pretty large, I carry a small backpack as my purse, so this fits in there just great. But if you don't have room for the big one, you can take the little one. I use these for all different kinds of things. I'm sure that you can come up with some of your own ideas for how to use them for making lists. So I have all the pieces here that are needed. I'm going to set this notepad aside. This is a miniature. These light blue lines are not showing up on this pad. You can see them a little bit. That's sort of strange. It's just the color ink doesn't like to show up. And here are the pieces that I've cut to create the book first. There's an 8.5 by 11 piece here. There's an 8.5 by 8 inch here, and there's a 6.5 by 8 inch here. These are all written out in that PDF. I also have a little tiny strip here that I measured this black strip that I wanted to cover up. And I will do that. But I measured that black strip and I cut this piece of paper to fit that. And everybody's pads are going to have a slightly different size on this strip that binds the notepad. And so I recommend in the directions that you just measure this and cut a strip that fits that, like that. And then we have our decorative papers. We have 2 sheets for the cover and the back cover. we have these two sizes, two pieces of these, which will also go on the inside of the cover, and that will be more clear when we get to that part. Once we have the book put together, the substrate, then you'll be able to see where they fit a lot easier. And these two pieces are a little bit smaller, and these are the ones that will be on the flap of the book, this part right here. When you open this flap, these skinny pieces fit here. These larger pieces are what come in here. This is a pocket. And then the other side of it is another piece, just exactly the same size. And then we have the cover and the back. And you can coordinate them. They can be the same style of paper. If you don't have lots of different colors, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I like things to be matchy-matchy, but I just love the books to be colorful. And we're going to use a very small Velcro dot for our closure on our book. You can also use a magnet, but these I have found to be very readily available and easy to affix, even easier than magnets. If you don't get the magnets set up perfectly the first time, when you go to pull it, they can rip off. And I'll show you a little trick of how I make these work and stick so you don't have any problem. All right, let's get to it. The only tools I'm going to need, once you've cut everything and measured everything and you have all your pieces, this is the fun part. This is fairly easy once you learn the steps after you've made a few of them. So the only tools I really need for putting the book together now is my scoring tool, my burnishing tool, embossing tool, right? This is just to help make some creases and press down to help the glue stick. And then this fun little contraption that I use for laying down my glue. This is my favorite way to glue anything together. This is PVA glue. It's archival. It's people use this type of glue in bookmaking. It sets up fairly quickly. You have a couple, 3 seconds that you can kind of move things around a little bit, but not much more. But that's what makes it so great to work with. Everything pretty much sticks once you put the paper in place. It has a needle applicator. This is the awesome thing. You can put down just a tiny little bit of glue, and it's just super easy to do, a super thin strip. And that is just makes it, I think, so great because you have less mess. You have a less possible chance of squeezing that glue out and spreading it past where you want it to go. And then this little cup right here is also such a great trick. I wish I learned about it from Eileen Hull, but I think Eileen Hull learned about it from somebody else. You know how that goes. You hear about it and somebody says, well, I got it from so-and-so on the internet. And that's kind of, I wish I knew who came up with this original idea though, because it's really wonderful. And there's a dampened paper towel down here in the bottom. And actually, I think I need to have it be a little damper. So I have a little spray bottle here, and I like to just get it, again, damp, not saturated, because if it's too wet, when you put this glue bottle face down, top down into it, it will siphon the water up into the needle, and you'll have watery glue. So if it's just damp, it keeps that needle flowing, not getting stopped and dried up, and it also keeps the gravity down in the needle, so it is always ready to lay glue down. My favorite thing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get our 8.5 by 11 paper, and I think you can see the score lines here: 3 inches, 9, and 9 1/4. And this is going to be our front cover, and where we put our back cover and our front, we're going to have them meet. But first thing we're going to do is we are going to fold this at the 3 inch, and we've already got that scored, right? And I am going to go ahead and use my bone folder and press that down. And we're going to glue this This is the very first thing we're going to glue. But for right now, let's go ahead and gently fold over this 1/4 inch scoring line. Here is our spine, which is how our pad is going to fit in this book really well. It's because we're giving it a 1/4 inch depth. And I don't necessarily need to use my bone folder to make those. I just want to have it be clearly a 1/4 inch depth right there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is use my glue, and I'm going to lay 2 thin strips. I'm going to hold my little rubber cap there with my thumb. I'm going to lay down a thin strip there and a thin strip at the bottom. And I'm putting it somewhere between 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch on either side. Okay. Now, before you flip this over, let me show you a fun little trick here. Instead of doing this and putting your fingers flat and pressing it all flat, what I want you to do is just to put your fingers here on the edge and here gently on the edge, and then lay your fingers down and sort of press in. And you see in the middle there where it kind of made a little pop-up, you can see a little shadow right here. That's because I'm making it so that it has an opening. I don't want this pocket to be completely flat. It makes it more difficult to slide things into. So now you can see we've got a nice little opening there. And this will set up beautifully. I'm not going to put anything in the pocket yet. A few more minutes and this will be strong enough that I could actually put some things in the pocket. Okay. So far this is our cover right here. Pocket. All right. I'm also going to make a couple little pencil marks so that I can remember that this pocket is actually a little bit too, I did such a good job making a pocket that it's almost too much. And look at, I messed that up. My glue has set up too well. That's the first time I've ever had that happen, where my pocket is too big. So this is going to have a hard time laying flat without getting a wrinkle in the paper later. But that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. Moving on. I will be careful when I instruct and teach about that later. We just want a little tiny opening. We don't need a big fat one like I've got here. Okay. Now we're going to grab our second sheet of paper. It's the middle size, and it's 8.5 this way and 8 inches on the top. And I'm going to go ahead and fold, just like I did on the first one. I'm going to fold out on the lines that 1/4 inch, and that's the spine on the other side of the pad. Okay, I think that's good. So the way this is going to fit is we put these 2 pieces with this 1 3/4, I think is what this is, width here and here. And this is going to lay on top. Oh, nope, that's not right. Never mind. This is the flap. This is the other side of the flap. And this is going to lay on top of this. This is how it's going to join the front and back covers. So you can see we've got 2. Zoom in on this. I have 2 little ditches here where I've made the embossing scoring lines, and I want this to fit right butted up next to, but not covering. I wish you could see that better. It's really having a hard time. I want this lined up right to the right of that scoring line. I don't want it overlapping it though, okay? So let's just do this. It'll actually be easier to see. If I go ahead and glue this and do the 1/8 inch all the way down. Oh, I'm off camera, sorry. Do that 1/8 inch down. I think I'll move back out. There we go. And 1/8 inch here. And then I'm just going to do some scribble. It doesn't take a lot. This glue sets up beautifully. And now I'm going to lay this down just to the right of that second scored line, right next to it, but not covering it. And obviously I want the tops and the bottoms papers to match and to line up. You can use your bone folder to really press down and make sure that the paper and the glue are binding. Okay? All right. So now we basically have the cover and the place where our pad is going to fit into right here. So now we need to make the pocket that is going to hold our pad. And it is, in my case, already pre-cut. There's a 1/4 inch scoring on 3 sides. And then I went ahead and cut those. They were like miter cuts so that you get rid of the bulk when you fold them. So I'm going to go ahead and fold along the scoring line. This cover stock is not quite as heavy as some of my other. You would think all 65-pound cover stock, but maybe this isn't quite, maybe this is more like an index weight. I'm feeling like it's not as strong as my normal 65-pound cover. And what we're going to do on this is really use your bone folder and mash down so that these are flatter, because you're going to set these down and glue them onto the paper, the little flaps. And what I'd like you to do is just take note before we get everything done. Let's just write a little caret right here. This is the top of the book. Top, top, top. It's just to help so that when we go and glue stuff, we don't get turned around. Some people, when you're working and trying to glue stuff down, it's easy to move your book around, your structure. And we just want to make sure that we're always gluing things in the right direction, right? So this is going to be 3 sides, and I'm going to glue and put this down this way. So I just want one little thin bit of glue right down the middle, or close to the middle, on these 3 little flaps that we have folded. And this way, if it's thin enough and you're in the center, pretty much you're not going to have to worry about the glue squeezing out, right? So this folded flap is going to be at the very bottom of this page. I'm going to line it up so it doesn't extend past the page, and it's going to fit in between this second groove here and this first groove here. Again, we want it butted up to it, abutted, but not covering the score line. And if I cut them correctly, then they will, it will work, they'll fit in here perfectly, she said. I'm not quite on the line. I've got a little bit of room up here to play, so I'm okay. So if you're even close to it, that's good. And I'm going to use my scoring, or my bone folder, and just press on those flaps and make sure that that glue is properly starting to seep into those fibers. Okay, so that is your book structure, or substrate right there. It's all finished. Front, back, flap, and it's all good. And our pad will fit. I'm not going to let it stay in there, but I just want to show you. This glue is strong enough to hold just for this demo, but I'm not going to keep it in there. That little back flap will just go right in there, and it'll fit, and none of your pad is poking out. So I'm going to pull that out for right now. All right. Now we're ready to glue our decorative papers. I've pretty much made a decision. If you have a pattern that has a direction, you know, little birds, or, you know, you don't want your birds upside down, you have to be careful and just take note of the orientation. But in this case, they're flowers, so even if I messed up, it would be all right. I do have a particular way I want these flowers to be on the book, though. And so this cover is going to be like this. This is how I want my flower page to orient. And this page on the back is going to be like this. So those are the ones I'm going to do first. Now, when you have different scrapbook pages, sorry, I stepped away. I wanted to use a different type of paper as an example. So on this one, I had a multitude, because I bought them in a pack that were coordinated, right? So I want to make one with this on the front next time. So these all coordinate and go together. So what I do before I glue anything is I decide which pieces I want to go where before I start gluing them. So I decided this for my cover, my back. I decided this to go for my flap, this my inside flap, and then this right here for my inside cover, pocket cover. See, this pocket is much better. It's got a little tiny opening, but it's not poofy like this one I just made. And then this right here. And on this one, I even covered the pocket. But to be honest, that's kind of a waste of paper, of decorative paper, and I've decided not to do that anymore. And I used a magnet for this one. And I don't know if you can hear that little tiny click. So make sure that you've got everything that you want for your decorative papers and where you want to put them figured out so that they look right. In this case, it's all from the same style of paper, and the paper is so all over the place that it's not really a problem. They're so different that they can really go just about anywhere. The biggest thing would probably be my front cover and how do I want it to look with my flap, right? See, I don't really like that. So let's see. Here's my other flap. Oh, that's kind of pretty. Yeah, I do like that. So I'm going to do that. So this will just go on the inside, and it's not as big a deal on the inside. Okay, I'm going to do my cover first. And when we're gluing papers to a book, you always glue the paper. You put the glue on the paper and then add it to your stronger structure rather than putting your glue on your structure. So again, I'm just going to do this as quickly as I can, and it's going to be 1/8 to 1/4 inch. Mine will be a little squiggly. They can be straight, but I'm more into getting it done fairly quickly. And when you're putting down thin glue, it can dry and set up pretty quickly. So I'm also not going to tarry very long. Let me get that ready. And here's my up. Sometimes for people, it is easier to stand over your work to center it. This is almost like a 1/16 of an inch border. When I made these kits, I made them so that there would just be a very small little border margin around in the original, in the booklet structure. Okay, now I'm going to do the back, which I have already decided. Oh, and I didn't put an up arrow, but here's an up arrow right here. So I've decided it's going to go on like this. And again, quick, quick, quick. And some people, when they make these videos, this is where they would do a speeding up process. But I'm just doing this as a live video feed, partly because you could actually follow along with me and make this step by step with only occasionally needing to hit the pause button to catch up, right? And I'm going to eyeball 1/16 of an inch around border. And I still stand up sometimes to get mine straight. All right. Ooh, I'm liking that. All right. Such pretty paper. Got the 60s paisley vibe with the super, super bright colors. Okay, now I have these, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out which one goes where. I think I like that and that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be careful not to apply my glue on my book. Sometimes it's great to have a magazine that you can do all your gluing on, especially if you're trying to keep your table area clean. Magazine is a great under mat to use, because you can, if it gets gluey or smudged, you just turn the page and you have a fresh background for your craft. And especially with glue sticks, if you're using a glue stick instead of this little needle applicator, then you definitely want to have like a magazine or some scrap paper underneath to catch any glue that might, especially with glue stick stuff. After I learned this particular method of getting things glued, I'm never going back. I know some things you have to use a glue stick. I do understand that, because you have to have the glue right up to the edge so that it doesn't curl. But for these kinds of things that I make now, this PVA liquid glue is just the best thing ever. And if I'd known how to do this years ago, I would have used this instead of my double stick tape. Even with thin papers, it doesn't bubble, as long as you do use your little bone folder and sort of flatten it out. And as long as you're not getting too much glue on the paper, I haven't had any problem with buckling. So on this one, you just want to make sure that you're 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch away from that first scoring line. For the same reason, you don't want it to buckle or cover that scoring line, because you need to be able to fold it and not impede on that spine. Okay, now we have these flaps. This one is going to be my inside flap. And this thin paper, sometimes it's a little more challenging to work with. When you use scrapbook paper that's got a little heft, a little weight to it, it's actually a little bit easier to pick up and to move and to lay down. But the colors of this paper won me over, so that's why I wanted to do that, to use it for this video. Okay, and one more piece. This is going to go on the flap that covers. It comes around and wraps around to the front. And then we're going to be ready to put on our Velcro closures. And I will show you what I've gotten to work for me with those. And you'll notice all of those little caret marks we made to mark the top of each of our sections in this folio are being covered by the paper, so we have not had any need to erase, which I love also. Okay, check it out. Oh, I'm so sorry I'd messed that up. You can't really see it. You can see the little wrinkle that I made when I was trying to push this flat. It's not the last of it I'm going to see, I already know. So we have it. Look at that. Okay, so now we're getting ready to put our little, and I bought both these Velcro small circles in white and in black, and I just use whichever Velcro comes the closest to being able to blend. And since there's almost no white anywhere in these designs, well, a little bit, I just chose to use a black piece of Velcro. So before we put the Velcro on, we put the pad in our folio so that you have an accurate depth. This is the pocket I was saying. If you wanted to and you had a lot of extra paper, I could cut a piece. Just go ahead. It's not on my PDF, but you could just measure this here. Leave a little tiny 1/8 inch all the way around. So this size minus a 1/4 inch, top and bottom. And you could just go ahead and cover this if you wanted to. But once you put the pad in and you just slide that heavy cardboard backing right down inside there. And once you have that in there, you almost don't see any of the decorative paper. I mean, you still can. It's really whatever you want to do. And after you cut some of these, you know how to do it. You'll be able to measure and do that one on your own. What I wanted to say, so once you have that in there and you have that like that, then we can go ahead and find a good spot for our Velcro and affix it, right? But the one thing I am going to do before we do that, I already cut this piece by measuring the top. And all pads are a little bit different, so it really depends on which small legal size pad you get. There's different brands. This is almost got a vinyl top. I don't really care for it. I have others that are more paper that I prefer. But, oh, and you know what I can do on this is I can actually put the glue right down on that. The thing is you do not want glue to seep over this bottom here and go into that perforation where the pad, where you do the tearing. So I try not to cover up that little perforation line. And it just makes it so it blends in better without it, you know, opening the book and immediately seeing black. There. All right, there we go. So now I'm going to cover this up. Let's tuck a little something in here. I've got some papers here just for some different things. Let me just do that. And do that. So I eyeball this. And instead of put it smack in the middle between these two shapes, I don't put it smack in the middle because I want this to come over and close. And if I put it in the middle, this flap tends to kind of bend up. So I cheat my Velcro to the edge a little bit. And I'm just going to eyeball here to here. Here's about the middle. And that's where I'm going to put it, right there. So I've got two here. I don't need both of them. I just need to get the fuzzy side and then the grip side. I need one of each. Oh, it's sticking. That's interesting. All right. These are self-stick, so they have some stickum stuff on them. And I think I'm going to put this fuzzy side, I'm going to peel it off this backing. Let's see if you can see this. It's got a little backing. It's got glue, and I'm going to peel that off. Oh, this shouldn't be such a problem. It doesn't want to peel off. Huh. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to cover up that right there. And I'm going to just hold it down and press it. So here's what I'm going to do. This is how I do it. Once I close this, I am going to let it set for a while. I'm going to put some weight on it, even though it's just this sticky stuff. I want the paper to have a chance to adhere to this glue sticky stuff that's on the back of this Velcro. My studio is very warm, so I'm thinking that this glue is just really a little stickier than usual. What I'm going to do is I'm going to very gently, and I'm not going to push down hard yet, I'm going to affix the stick and the fuzzy side of the Velcro, right, so that I know they're matched up, but I'm just laying it very gently on there. And then this top right here is very sticky. Okay, so now I'm not going to, don't let it come in contact with the paper yet. I want to make sure that I'm lined up. I want to make sure that the top of my papers and the bottom of my paper are lined up. So now it's touching the paper, I can feel it. But I don't want to push down hard until I've got it where I want it, right? And I can tell my spine is in good shape. It's straight. And now I'm just going to gently, I'm not going to push down super hard. I don't really want those fibers to grab each other. I want the glue to grab onto the paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and tap down and just put some pressure there. And then I'm going to find some weight. You don't have to, oh here, this. I'm going to use my tape. And I'm just going to leave my book alone for right now. I'm just going to leave it there because that glue will, the glue on the back of this, of the Velcro circles will eventually sort of seep into some of those fibers in the paper so that when I come back an hour or so from now, and I very gently, the first time I do this, I very gently pull it apart and I make sure that when I'm pulling it, even if I have to stick my finger in and sort of help the Velcro separate from each other, that it's not pulling up from the pad, the paper, right? So if I do it too soon, it could inadvertently, let's see if I'm, yeah, I can already tell it is going to pull up. So I'm going to press down a little harder and I'm going to let it sit for a while. And I guarantee when you go back, if you can just let it sit for an hour or so, then when you come back, it'll have a much better chance when you pull it apart of being like this. The Velcro, one on this side right here and one over here, like that. If you try to pull it apart too soon, you have a better chance of it ripping up. So if that happens, it's not a problem. Go ahead and put down a little tiny bit of glue where it rips up. Put some glue, some of your PVA glue is just fine. Or if you have some bead glue or some other, the stuff that sort of clears your sinuses, that type of glue. Just a small amount underneath those tabs and do the same thing. Close it up, put something heavy on it, and then just let it alone and it'll be fine. I do like to sign the backs of my books. You can do it with pen if you want to. I have a little stamp here. I don't have my black rubber stamp pad though. And I'm going to, it's a little carved chop that just has my initials. And so I'm going to use some water-based marker and cover the surface real well. And I will huff on it. And here's a lighter place for some black ink to fit. Or I could put it over here, but I'm going to put it right here and press down. There's my little signature. And to make it even more official, I'm just going to use a little monoline. This particular pen is a, oh, it's somebody's personal line of Micron. And I'll put the date when I made it. And I'm not going to open it. I'm not, let me make sure that's dry. And I'm going to put that weight back on it. And I will come back to this in an hour or so, and I will have a booklet that I am sure that flap will release on the Velcro. And here is the little companion mini book folio that goes with this, and I like that so much. So I hope that you take some time and get your materials together and measure and cut and score and try making this on your own. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment below, and I am happy to answer your questions. Okay, thank you. Bye.